Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon and looked out at the stars. They were farther from Earth than any human had ever gone before. The ship was huge, almost a mile long, with white and blue metal that shined in the starlight. 200 people called this ship home now. They were all brave enough to leave everything behind for this mission. "Captain, we're getting close to the Andromeda sector," said Lisa Park from her station. She was young, maybe 25, with short brown hair and quick fingers that danced over her controls. Lisa had been the best communications officer on Earth. Now she was trying to find alien signals in the deep dark of space. Jake nodded and walked over to the big screen that showed their path. He was 42 years old and had been flying ships since he was 18. His gray eyes had seen many things, but never anything like this. Earth had sent them to find other smart life in the galaxy. They hoped to make friends with aliens and learn new things. "Any word from the science team?" Jake asked. Dr. Amy Walsh looked up from her computer. She was the smartest person Jake had ever met. Amy had 3 degrees and knew more about space than most people knew about their own backyard. Her red hair was always messy because she forgot to brush it when she was thinking hard about something. "The readings are strange out here, Captain," Amy said. "There's something big ahead of us, really big. I've never seen energy patterns like this before." Ben Carter wiped his hands on a dirty cloth and came over from the engine controls. He was a big man with strong arms and a kind smile. Ben could fix anything that broke, and on a ship this far from home, that was very important. His voice was deep and calm, which made everyone feel safe. "The engines are running perfect," Ben said. "But I'm seeing some weird numbers on my screens too. It's like something is pulling at us, not hard, but steady." Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. Space was dangerous, and they all knew it. But they had the best ship Earth could build and the best crew he could ask for. They would be okay. "Put it on the main screen," Jake said. The big screen changed to show what was ahead of them. At first, it looked like empty space with normal stars. Then Amy made the computer look closer. What they saw made everyone stop talking. There was something there. It was huge, bigger than anything humans had ever built. It looked like a ring made of dark metal, spinning slowly in space. Strange lights moved around it in patterns that hurt to look at. The ring was so big that Earth could fit through it 10 times. "What is that thing?" Lisa asked in a whisper. "I don't know," Amy said. "But it's not natural. Someone built it. Someone with technology we don't understand." Jake felt the ship shake a little. It was small at first, like a tiny earthquake. Then it got stronger. "Ben, what's happening?" Jake asked. Ben was moving fast over his controls, but his face looked worried. "Something is pulling us toward that ring, Captain. The engines are fighting it, but it's getting stronger." "Can we turn around?" "I'm trying, but whatever that thing is, it's too strong. We're being pulled in." The ship shook harder now. Things started to fall off tables, and people had to hold on to their chairs. The ring on the screen was getting bigger as they moved toward it. "All hands, this is the captain," Jake said into his microphone. "Hold on to something. We're going to have a rough ride." Amy was working as fast as she could at her station. "Captain, I'm reading massive gravitational forces from that ring. But they're not normal. It's like the ring is bending space itself." "English, please, Amy," Jake said as he held on to his chair. "It's a wormhole, Captain, an artificial one. And we're going through it whether we want to or not." The ring filled their whole screen now. The strange lights were moving faster, and Jake could hear a sound like singing coming from somewhere. It made his teeth hurt. "Lisa, send a message to Earth," Jake ordered. "Tell them what we found. Tell them what's happening to us." Lisa's fingers moved over her controls. "I'm trying, Captain, but something is blocking our signal. It's like the ring is jamming our communications." The ship was shaking so hard now that it was difficult to stand. Jake could hear metal creaking and groaning. The New Horizon was a strong ship, but this was testing its limits. "Ben, can the ship handle this?" "She's built tough, Captain." "But I've never seen forces like this before." They were almost at the ring now. Jake could see through it to the other side, but what he saw there didn't make sense. Instead of normal space with stars, there was something else. Something that looked like a tunnel made of light and energy that went on forever. "Hold on, everyone," Jake said. The new horizon flew into the ring and everything changed. The stars disappeared. The normal rules of space seemed to break. Jake saw colors that didn't have names and felt like he was falling up and down at the same time. Amy was shouting something about space-time, but her words got twisted and stretched until they didn't sound like words anymore. Ben was holding on to his station so hard his knuckles were white. Lisa was trying to send messages, but her equipment was showing impossible numbers. The ship spun and twisted through the tunnel of light. Jake felt like they were being pulled apart and put back together over and over again. Time moved wrong. Minutes felt like hours and hours felt like seconds. Then, as suddenly as it started, everything stopped. They were in normal space again, with normal stars. But these stars were different. Jake had studied star maps his whole life, and he didn't recognize any of these constellations. "Where are we?" he asked. Amy looked at her instruments with wide eyes. "I don't know, Captain. None of these stars match our charts? We're not in human space anymore? We're not even close to human space. Can we get home?" Amy looked at the readings for a long time before she answered. "The ring is gone, Captain. Whatever brought us here, it's not there anymore." Jake looked around his bridge at his crew. They were all looking at him, waiting for him to tell them what to do. 200 people were counting on him to get them home. "All right," he said. "We're explorers. Let's explore. We'll find a way home." But deep down, Jake wondered if they ever would. 15 years had passed since the New Horizon disappeared, and the galaxy was a very different place for humans. Earth was no longer the hopeful world that had sent brave explorers to the stars. Now it was a planet that lived in fear. Admiral Kritos stood on the bridge of his massive warship, the Dominator. He was 8 feet tall with purple skin and 4 arms that could crush steel. His yellow eyes looked out at the stars near human space with disgust. The hegemony fleet under his command had 50 ships, each one bigger and more powerful than anything humans could build. "Admiral, we are approaching the human border," said his second officer, a creature with green scales and too many teeth. "Good," Kritos said in a voice like grinding rocks. "It is time to remind these animals of their place." The Galactic Council ruled over 12 different alien species, and they had kept peace in the galaxy for 3,000 years. Peace through strength, peace through fear. No one questioned the Council because no one could fight the Council, and when their ships had plasma cannons that could melt mountains and quantum shields that could stop any weapon. For thousands of years, no species had been able to match their technology. The Council made sure of this by keeping their best science secret and destroying anyone who got too close to the truth. Humans were allowed to exist because they were useful. They worked hard, they paid their taxes to the Council, and they stayed in their small corner of space. But lately they were becoming troublesome. On Earth, President Claire Roberts sat in her office looking at reports that made her sick to her stomach. She was a strong woman with gray hair and tired eyes. For 5 years, she had tried to protect humanity from the aliens who saw them as nothing more than useful pets. "The Council is demanding more tribute again," said Defense Secretary Matt Kane as he walked into her office. Matt was a soldier who had fought in the border wars against alien raiders. He had scars on his face and metal in his leg from a plasma blast. "They want twice as much as last year." "We can't afford that," Claire said. "We're already giving them half of everything we produce. Our people are going hungry to pay their demands." "If we don't pay, they'll send the fleet," Matt said. "Our ships can't fight theirs." "We both know what happened to the Mars colony when they tried to resist," Claire remembered. The Council had turned the entire colony into glass from orbit. 50,000 people dead in 10 seconds. The message was clear: obey or die. "What about Dr. Ross? Has she made any progress with the alien technology?" Matt shook his head. "She's smart, maybe the smartest person we have, but their tech is thousands of years ahead of ours. She's been working on one small piece of a plasma cannon for 3 years and still doesn't understand how it works. In her Lab deep under the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Ninya Ross was doing exactly that. She was 35 years old with black hair and eyes that never seemed to sleep. Around her were pieces of alien technology that human soldiers had captured over the years. Most of it was broken, and none of it worked anymore. "Come on," she whispered to a small device that looked like a metal egg. "Just give me one clue. Show me how you work." The device sat there doing nothing, just like it had for the past 6 months. Ninya had tried everything she could think of. She had taken it apart and put it back together. She had run electricity through it, heated it, cooled it, and even talked to it nicely. Nothing worked. The problem was that alien technology was based on science that humans didn't understand. It was like trying to fix a computer when you had never even seen electricity. The aliens used forces and energy that human science said were impossible. Ninya heard footsteps behind her and turned to see her assistant, Dr. Kevin Lee. Kevin was young and eager, but he was starting to look as tired as Ninya felt. "Any luck?" he asked. "None," Ninya said. "It's like they're using completely different rules of physics. Everything we know about how the universe works they seem to ignore." Outside in space, Admiral Kritos was meeting with the other fleet commanders. They gathered in a room that could hold beings of many different shapes and sizes. There were the Vreks with their bird-like heads and sharp claws. The hegemony looked like giant purple humans with too many arms. The collective were robots that shared one mind across 1,000,000 batas. "The humans are becoming bold," said Commander Zethkar of the Vreks. "Their exploration ships are pushing closer to our restricted zones. They ask too many questions about our technology. Perhaps it is time to remind them of their limitations," said a collective unit with glowing red eyes. Admiral Kritos smiled, showing teeth like broken glass. "I have a better idea. We will give them new restrictions. No more space travel beyond their own solar system. No more questions about Council technology and double tribute payments." "What if they refuse?" asked another commander. "Then we will do to Earth what we did to Mars, but slower this time so everyone can watch." Back on Earth, President Roberts called an emergency meeting with her cabinet. The news from the Council was worse than they had feared. Matt Kane read the demands with a face like stone. "No space travel beyond our solar system. That means we lose all our mining operations in other star systems. Without those, we can't even build basic ships anymore." "They want us trapped," Claire said. "They want to make sure we can never become a threat." "We already aren't a threat," said Secretary of Science Dr. Patricia Wells. "Our best ships are toys compared to theirs. Our strongest weapons can barely scratch their shields." Claire looked around the room at the faces of her government. These were good people who had spent their lives trying to make the world better. Now they were trapped by aliens who saw humans as nothing more than useful animals. "What are our options?" she asked. "We can submit," Nat said. "Accept their demands and hope they don't ask for more later." "They always ask for more," Dr. Wells sighed. "Every year, the tribute gets bigger. Every year they take more of our freedom. At this rate, in 10 years, we'll be completely dependent on them for everything." "Or we can fight," Matt said quietly. Everyone looked at him. Fighting the Council was suicide. Everyone knew that. "With what?" Claire asked. "Our ships can't even get close to theirs. Their shields stop everything we have." "Maybe Dr. Ross will figure something out," Dr. Wells said. But she didn't sound like she believed it. Claire stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the sky where human ships used to come and go freely. Soon that sky would be empty except for alien ships coming to collect tribute. "Schedule a meeting with Admiral Kritos," she said finally. "We'll hear their terms, but this isn't over. Somehow, someway, humanity will find a path forward." None of them knew that in the deep darkness of space, something was stirring. Something that had been lost for 15 years was finally coming home. And when it arrived, everything would change. Lieutenant Sarah Adams was working the night shift at Earth Defense Station Alpha when every alarm in the facility started screaming at once. She was 28 years old and had been watching the edge of human space for 3 years. In all, That time, the most exciting thing she had seen was a lost cargo ship. "What the hell?" she said as her screens, filled with red warning lights, the massive computer screens that covered the wall showed something impossible. There was an energy reading coming from the edge of the solar system that was bigger than anything in their database. The numbers were so high that the computer kept asking if there was an error. "Lieutenant Adams to Command Center," Sarah said into her microphone. "We have a code red energy signature. Unknown contact approaching the system." Within minutes, the command center was full of people. Admiral Kate Logan was there in her nightgown with a jacket thrown over it. Dr. Nina Ross came running from her lab with coffee still in her hand. Everyone stood looking at the screens with their mouths open. "How big is that energy reading?" Admiral Logan asked. "It's impossible, ma'am," Sarah said. "According to our instruments, whatever is out there has more power than our entire fleet combined. Actually, more power than every ship we've ever built put together." Dr. Ross was staring at her tablet, running calculations. "The energy patterns don't match anything we know? It's not human technology, but it's not council technology either. This is something completely new." Across the galaxy, Admiral Kritos was having the same problem. His ship's sensors were screaming warnings about an unknown energy source in human space. The readings were so high that his science officer thought the equipment was broken. "Run a full diagnostic," Kritos ordered. "Check every sensor twice." "Sir." "I've checked everything 3 times," the science officer said. "The readings are real. Something with impossible power levels just appeared in human space." Kritos felt a cold fear in his stomach. In 3,000 years, the Council had never encountered technology they couldn't understand. They were the masters of the galaxy because their science was the best. But these readings suggested something that was far beyond even Council knowledge. "Send a message to the Council," he ordered. "Tell them we may have a situation that requires the full fleet." "Should we investigate, sir?" "Yes, but carefully. Whatever this is, it's not from any species we know." Back on Earth, the energy signature was getting stronger. Sarah watched her screens as whatever was coming got closer to their solar system. The readings were so strange that the computer couldn't even guess what kind of ship could produce them. "Ma'am, I'm detecting space-time distortions," Dr. Ross said. "It's like something is tearing a hole in space itself." Admiral Logan had been a soldier for 30 years, but she had never seen anything like this. "Get me a visual. I want to see what we're dealing with." Sarah switched the main screen to show the edge of the solar system. At first there was nothing but empty space and distant stars. Then the space itself began to change. It started to bend and twist like someone was stirring it with a giant spoon. "Jesus Christ," someone whispered. A crack appeared in space, a line of bright light that grew bigger and bigger. Through the crack, they could see something that hurt to look at directly. It was like staring into a tunnel made of pure energy that went on forever. Then something came through. It was a ship, but it was unlike anything they had ever seen. The basic shape was familiar. It looked like it might once have been human design. But everything else was wrong. The hull was made of metal that seemed to shift and flow like liquid. Strange symbols glowed along its sides in patterns that made their eyes water. The ship was big, much bigger than it should have been. "Oh my God," Dr. Ross said. "That hull design, I know that ship." "What do you mean?" Admiral Logan asked. "It's the New Horizon." "But that's impossible. The New Horizon was lost 15 years ago." Sarah was checking her readings again and again. "Ma'am, that ship is showing power levels that are off the charts. If those readings are correct, it could destroy our entire fleet without trying." The crack in space closed behind the ship, leaving normal space again. But the ship that had come through was anything but normal. It hung in space like a sleeping giant, waiting. Then the communications board lit up. "Incoming transmission," Sarah said. It's on all frequencies. Every radio, every computer, every communication device in the system is picking this up." "Put it through," Admiral Logan said. The voice that came through the speakers was human, but it sounded different, older, tired, but also very sure of itself. Earth Defense, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the exploration vessel New Horizon. We're coming home. The command center was completely silent. Everyone stared at the speakers like they had just heard a ghost. That's impossible, someone said. Jake Morrison is dead. They've all been dead for 15 years. Admiral Logan picked up the microphone with shaking hands. New Horizon, this is Admiral Logan of Earth Defense. Please identify yourself properly. The New Horizon was lost 15 years ago. There was a pause, then the voice came back. It was definitely Jake Morrison, but there was something in his voice that hadn't been there before. Something that spoke of seeing things that changed a person forever. Admiral, I know how this looks. But we're who we say we are? We've been ... away, learning things. We're different now, but we're still human. And we're still loyal to Earth. Dr. Ross was looking at her instruments with wide eyes. Admiral, I'm scanning their ship. The hull composition is unlike anything in our database. The energy signature is completely unknown. Whatever happened to them out there, they came back with technology that's far beyond anything we've ever seen. Across the galaxy, Admiral Kritos was receiving reports from his scout ships. They had reached the edge of human space and were sending back readings that made no sense. Sir, the unknown vessel appears to be of human origin, but modified with completely unknown technology, his science officer reported. The power readings suggest weapons capability that exceeds our own by several orders of magnitude. That's impossible, Kritos said. Humans are barely capable of spaceflight. They have no advanced technology. Nevertheless, sir, the readings are clear. This ship represents a threat level we have never encountered. Kritos made a decision that would change everything. Assemble the attack fleet. We will investigate this anomaly and remove the threat before it can spread. Sir, the power readings suggest that might be inadvisable. I don't care what the readings suggest. Humans are insects. No matter what tricks they have learned, they are still inferior. We will deal with this threat immediately. On Earth, Admiral. Logan was trying to process what she was hearing. Captain Morrison, where have you been for 15 years? What happened to your ship? And what kind of technology are you using? Jake's voice came back calm and steady. It's a long story, Admiral. But the short version is that we found something out there. Or rather, it found us. We've learned things about the universe that most species never discover. We've been changed, but we're still human, and we're still on humanity's side. Captain, you need to know that the situation has changed since you left. The Galactic Council controls human space now. We're essentially their prisoners. There was another pause, longer this time. When Jake spoke again, his voice was hard as steel. Not anymore, Admiral, not anymore. Admiral Kritos arrived at the edge of human space with the most powerful fleet the Council had ever assembled. 50 massive warships, each one capable of destroying entire planets, moved in perfect formation toward where the New Horizon waited. Their plasma cannons were charged and ready, their quantum shields glowing with deadly energy. Maintain attack formation, Kritos ordered. Target the unknown vessel. We will end this threat before it can contaminate the rest of the galaxy. On his main screen, he could see the human ship. It looked wrong to his eyes. The hull seemed to move and shift like it was alive. Strange lights ran along its surface in patterns that made his head hurt to watch. But it was still just one ship against 50 of the Council's finest. Sir, should we attempt communication first? Asked his second officer. No, Kritos said. Humans do not deserve warnings. They exist only because we allow it. This aberration ends now. On the New Horizon, Captain Jake Morrison stood on his bridge and watched the Council fleet approach. His crew was around him, but they all looked different now. Dr. Amy Walsh had strange blue lines under her skin that glowed softly. Ben Carter's eyes were silver instead of brown, and when he moved, he seemed to blur slightly at the edges. Lisa Park had symbols carved into her arms that shifted and changed as they watched. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Earth Defense, Lisa sighed. Her voice sounded the same, but there was something else there now, like an echo of distant music. Put them through. Admiral Logan's voice came through the speakers, full of panic. Captain Morrison, you need to get out of there. That's a full Council attack fleet, 50 ships? You can't fight them all? Jake looked at his crew and saw them smile. They had seen things in the past 15 years that most beings in the galaxy could never imagine. They had learned from creatures older than the stars themselves. Admiral, we appreciate your concern, Jake said calmly. But we'll be fine, just watch and learn. Amy looked up from her station. Captain, the Council ships are charging their plasma cannons. They're preparing to fire. Let them, Jake said. It's time the galaxy learned that there are forces in the universe bigger than the Council. Ben Carter put his hand on a control panel, and the New Horizons hull began to glow. The strange metal that covered the ship started to move faster, flowing like water. The symbols became brighter, and space itself seemed to bend around the ship. All ships, fire! Kratos commanded. 50 plasma cannons fired at once. The beams were so bright they could be seen from Earth. Each one carried enough energy to melt a mountain. They had never failed to destroy any target in 3,000 years of Council rule. The beams hit the New Horizon and simply disappeared. There was no explosion, no damage, no sign that anything had happened at all. The plasma just vanished the moment it touched the ship's hull, like water poured into sand. What? Kratos stared at his screens. Fire again. All weapons. The Council ships fired everything they had. Plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, gravity bombs. Enough firepower to destroy a small moonstruck. The human ship in a display of light that lit up half the solar system. Nothing happened. The New Horizons sat in space like the attack was a gentle breeze on Earth. Everyone in the command center watched with their mouths open. Dr. Ross was running scans as fast as she could. The energy readings are impossible, she said. It's like their ship is absorbing all the incoming fire and converting it to something else. Converting it to what? Admiral Logan asked. I don't know. The readings don't make sense according to any physics I understand. On the New Horizon, Jake opened a communication channel to the Council fleet. Admiral Kratos, he said. This is your only warning. Stand down and withdraw from human space. We don't want to hurt anyone, but we will defend ourselves and our people. Kratos was furious. In 3,000 years, no one had ever survived a full Council bombardment. You are insects, he screamed. How dare you threaten the Galactic Council? We're not threatening anyone, Jake said sadly. We're trying to prevent unnecessary violence. But if you insist... Amy touched a control, and one of the New Horizons' smaller weapon ports opened. It was just a tiny gun compared to the massive cannons on the Council ships. The energy that came out was barely visible, just a thin beam of silver light. The beam touched the lead Council ship, the mighty Dominator, and something impossible happened. The huge vessel, 2 miles long and armored with quantum steel, simply came apart, not exploded, not destroyed. It just fell into pieces like a puzzle someone had taken apart very gently, but even as the ship dissolved, something else happened. Every crew member on board was suddenly standing on the deck of the nearest Council ship, unharmed and confused but alive. What did you do? Kratos demanded. He was now standing on a different ship, watching his flagship fall apart into neat pieces. We destabilized the molecular bonds holding your ship together, Amy explained over the communication channel. Don't worry, your crew is safe. We transported them to safety before their ship came apart. We don't kill people if we don't have to. Jake's voice came back on the channel. The beings who taught us this technology are called the Builders. They created most of the hyperspace network your ships use to travel. They're older than your civilization, and they understand forces that your science hasn't even discovered yet. Ben Carter spoke up. We can manipulate matter at the quantum level. We can bend space and time. We can do things that look like magic to species who haven't learned these secrets. Kratos looked around at his remaining ships. His crew was staring at him, waiting for orders. But what orders could he give? Their strongest weapons had no effect, and the humans had just destroyed his flagship without even trying hard. "This is impossible," he said. "No species can have technology this advanced. The Council controls all advanced science in the galaxy." "You control what you know about," Lisa Park said. "But the universe is much bigger than your little corner of it. There are beings out there who were building stargates when your species was still learning to use fire." Jake's voice became serious. "Admiral, you have two choices. You can accept that things have changed and try to find a peaceful solution. Or you can keep fighting and we'll have to disable your entire fleet. Your choice." Kratos looked at his screens. The pieces of the Dominator were floating in space, each one perfectly cut. Not one crew member had been harmed. The humans could have killed everyone, but they chose not to. This was power beyond anything he had ever imagined, combined with mercy he didn't understand. "All ships, stand down," he ordered quietly. "Wise choice," Jake said. "Now, let's talk about the future. The Council's rule over humanity is over. We're not going to be anyone's slaves anymore. But that doesn't mean we want to rule anyone else either," Amy added. "We've learned things out there that we're willing to share, technologies that could benefit everyone, medical advances that could end disease, energy sources that could power civilizations for millions of years. But we'll only share with species that are ready to be partners, not masters or slaves." The news of what happened spread across the galaxy faster than light. Every species heard about the humans who had returned, with impossible technology. The Council, who had seemed all-powerful for thousands of years, had been helpless against one human ship. On Earth, President Roberts was getting reports from across human space. Council patrol ships were withdrawing from human territory. Tribute collection ships were turning around and going home. For the first time in 15 years, humans could travel freely in their own space. "Captain Morrison," she said over the communication channel, "on behalf of all humanity, welcome home." "Thank you, Madam President," Jake replied. "It's good to be back. And don't worry, we're going to make sure this never happens to anyone again, human or alien." 3 months after the New Horizon returned, the galaxy was a very different place. The Galactic Council, which had ruled with absolute power for 3,000 years, now found themselves in a position they had never experienced before. They were afraid. Council leader Zethkar of the Vrex Empire stood in the great chamber where the 12 species had made decisions for millennia. His bird-like head was bent low as he read reports from across the galaxy. Everywhere the news was the same. Species that had been quiet for centuries were now asking questions about Council authority. Some were even demanding changes to their tribute payments. "The humans have upset the balance of everything," said Collective Unit Prime, its red robotic eyes glowing with anger. "Our control over the galaxy is weakening because of one ship. One ship that made our entire fleet look like children playing with toys," Admiral Kratos said bitterly. He was still angry about what had happened to his ships, but more than that, he was confused. The humans could have destroyed his entire fleet, but they had chosen not to kill anyone. "Perhaps it is time to consider negotiation," suggested Ambassador Veltar of the Merchant Coalition. She was one of the few council members who had always argued for diplomacy over force. "Negotiation?" Zethkar's voice was sharp with disbelief. "We do not negotiate with inferior species. We give orders and they obey." "With respect, Council Leader," Veltar said carefully, "the humans no longer appear to be inferior. Their technology is beyond anything we understand. Perhaps it would be wise to treat them as equals." The chamber fell silent. The idea of treating humans as equals was something none of them had ever considered. Humans were supposed to be barely capable of spaceflight. They were supposed to be grateful for Council protection. They were not supposed to have weapons that could make Council ships fall apart with a gentle touch. "I will not bow to animals," Zethkar declared. "Send a diplomatic mission to Earth. Offer them membership in the Council in exchange for their technology." On Earth, President Claire Roberts was having the best day she'd had in years. Council patrol ships had stopped harassing human vessels. The tribute demands had stopped coming. For the first time since the aliens had arrived, humans could travel freely in their own space, She was in a meeting with Captain Jake Morrison, who had come down to Earth for the first time in 15 years. He looked older than he should have, and there were strange scars on his face that seemed to glow softly in certain light. But his eyes were kind, and his voice was calm. "Captain, the council is asking for a meeting," she said. "They want to offer us membership in their organization." Jake smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. "They want our technology. They're afraid that other species will see what happened and start getting ideas about freedom. What do you think we should do?" "We should listen to what they have to say," Jake said. "But we're not going to be anyone's junior partner. Those days are over." Dr. Amy Walsh, who was with Jake, looked up from the tablet she was studying. "President Roberts, we've been working on something that should make our position very clear. It's called a reality anchor. What does it do?" Ben Carter, who was also there, answered in his deep, calm voice. "It creates a field around our solar system that makes certain kinds of technology stop working. Specifically, it makes hyperspace travel impossible unless you have builder-derived technology." Claire felt her heart skip a beat. "You mean—" "We mean that any hostile fleet that wants to attack Earth would have to travel here using normal spaceflight," Lisa Park explained. "That would take them decades. Meanwhile, our ships can still move instantly anywhere in the galaxy." "It's a defensive measure," Jake said. "We're not trying to conquer anyone. We just want to make sure no one can threaten Earth ever again." A week later, the Council's diplomatic ship arrived at Earth. Ambassador Veltar came aboard the New Horizon to meet with the human leadership. She was a graceful creature with silver skin and large, intelligent eyes. Unlike most council members, she seemed genuinely interested in finding a peaceful solution. "Captain Morrison," she said, as they sat in the New Horizons conference room, "the council is prepared to offer humanity full membership. You would have equal voting rights and access to all council technology." Jake looked at her for a long moment, and in return, "We would like to understand your new technology. Perhaps work together to improve it," Amy laughed, but it wasn't a mean laugh. "Ambassador, with respect, your technology is thousands of years behind what we learned from the builders. We're not trying to be rude, but there's nothing you can teach us that we don't already know." Lisa added, "But there's plenty we can teach you if you're willing to learn." "What are your terms?" Veltar asked. Jake stood up and walked to the window that looked out at Earth. "No more tribute payments from any species. No more forcing people to stay in restricted areas of space. No more threatening to destroy colonies that ask questions. The Council can continue to exist, but only as a forum for cooperation, not as rulers." "And if the Council refuses?" Ben's voice was quiet but firm. "Then we'll start building more ships like this one. And we'll give them to any species that's tired of being bullied." Veltar was quiet for a long time. Finally she asked, "What do?" "You really want peace," Jake said simply. "We want every species in the galaxy to be free to grow and learn and explore. We want trade and friendship and cooperation. We don't want to rule anyone, and we won't let anyone rule us." Within a month, 3 species had formally withdrawn from the Council and asked to join what humans were calling the Protectorate. The Kepler scientists, who had been forced to share all their research with the Council, were the first. The Tau miners, who had been giving half their resources as tribute, were the second. The Zeta explorers, who had been forbidden to travel beyond their home system, were the third. Each time a species joined the Protectorate, the New Horizon shared some of its builder technology. Medical advances that could cure diseases thought incurable. Energy sources that were clean and unlimited. Faster-than-light communication that worked across the entire galaxy, but most importantly, they shared the reality anchor technology. Every Protectorate world got its own defensive field that made it immune to surprise attacks by Council fleets. The Council tried to respond with force. Admiral Kritos led a fleet to attack the Kepler homeworld, thinking he could make an example of them. But when his ships arrived, they found the Keplers had 3 new ships built with builder technology. The battle lasted exactly 30 seconds before the Council ships surrendered. Dr. Nina Ross, who had spent years trying to understand Alien technology was now working with scientists from a dozen different species. They were building new things that had never existed before. Ships that could travel between galaxies. Computers that could think faster than any biological brain. Weapons that could stop wars without killing anyone. "It's amazing," she told President Roberts during one of their weekly meetings. "When species work together instead of fighting, the progress is incredible. We've learned more in the past 6 months than the Council learned in the past 1,000 years." 6 months after the New Horizon returned, Jake Morrison stood on his bridge and looked out at a construction site in space. Dozens of ships were being built using builder technology, crewed by humans and aliens working side by side. The ships weren't weapons of war. They were exploration vessels, medical ships, and science platforms. "Captain," Amy said, "we're receiving a message from the Andromeda sector. The Helix civilization wants to join the Protectorate." Jake smiled. The Helix were an old and wise species that had always stayed neutral in galactic politics. If they were choosing sides now, it meant the galaxy was truly changing. "Tell them they're welcome," he said. "And ask them if they'd like to help us build a hospital ship. I think it's time we started healing some of the damage that's been done over the centuries." Lisa looked up from her station. "Captain, what do you think the builders would say about what we're doing?" Jake thought about the ancient beings who had taught them so much during their 15 years away. Creatures so old they remembered when the first stars were born. Beings who had tried to guide younger species toward wisdom and peace. "I think they'd be proud," he said. "We're doing what they always hoped someone would do. We're showing the galaxy that there's a better way." Ben Carter, who was monitoring the construction, announced, "First ship is ready for launch, Captain." The USS Harmony. Medical vessel designed to help anyone who needs it, regardless of species or politics. Jake nodded. "Launch when ready? And signal Earth. Tell them we're not just protecting humanity anymore. We're protecting everyone who believes in freedom." The galaxy was entering a new age. An age where might didn't make right. An age where cooperation was stronger than conquest. And it had all started with one lost ship finding its way home.